How's it going, guys? It's Nightowl. Are you guys ready to see something genuinely terrifying? There's a lot to this video. In full disclosure, I pre-watched this last night while I was at work. Gotta keep myself sane while I'm out there. As somebody who was raised in churches and kind of pulled myself out of the religious culture because of the things that I saw and the way I saw people treating each other, this video is fucking terrifying, right? And it also has a secondary terrifying factor of it being AI. That's right. We're going to watch a video on AI's perspective of religion, the devil, and God.
This pastor asked ChatGPT, if you're the devil, what would you do?
I asked ChatGPT, if you were the devil, and maybe you are, if you were the devil, what would you do? And the answer that came back at me shook me in my shoes. I wouldn't waste my time trying to get you to worship me. No, I just convince you not to worship God at all. I'd tell you truth is relative. Your truth, my truth, until nobody knows which way is up. I'd whisper, as long as you're happy, it's right. I'd keep you busy. Too busy for prayer, too busy for church, too busy for crew. I put that one in. Too busy to ask eternal questions. I'd fill your hands with a phone so you'd never have time to fold them in prayer.
Real?
I'd break families, get fathers absent, marriages bitter, and kids confused. If I can fracture the home, I can fracture the future. I divide the church, petty arguments, comparison, offense, celebrity culture. If I can get Christians fighting each other, they'll never fight me. I'd desensitize you. I'd glamorize sin in movies, normalize it in music, laugh at it in comedy, and celebrate it in culture until what once shocked you now entertains you. I'd attack your identity. I'd make you question who you are, where you belong, and whether you matter. I'd whisper shame so loud you can't hear God's voice of love. And through it all, I wouldn't even try to prove I exist. My greatest trick is to convince you I'm not real. Because if you don't believe I'm real.
Oh my God, it's kind of scary. It's like role playing. It's literally role playing as the devil. Do you guys want to? You guys want to hear it talk?
You think I need fire and brimstone to win? How medieval. How crude. Brute force is a fool's game. Persecution only creates martyrs, and martyrs are simply seeds for the enemy's garden. To truly dethrone him, to wither the vine from the root, I do not attack the church from the outside. I simply change the definition of what it means to be inside it. Here is how I take a society devoted to him, and gently, ever so quietly, make it mine. The weaponization of virtues. I do not need to invent new vices. I simply twist his virtues until they snap. Love becomes tolerance. I convince them that loving thy neighbor means never disagreeing with them, never correcting them, and affirming every impulse they have. If they speak truth, I label it hate. I make them terrified of offending anyone but him. Justice becomes vengeance. I stoke their hunger for justice but strip away mercy. I make them obsessed with punishment, with cancel culture, with being on the right side of history, rather than the right side of eternity. I make them eat their own. Grace becomes license. I whisper that because they are forgiven, their actions do not matter. God knows my heart, they will say, as they walk willingly into the pit. 2. The idolatry of the self. This is my masterpiece. I don't ask them to worship a statue of a goat. I ask them to worship the face in the mirror. Your truth. I destroy the concept of objective truth. I replace it with my truth. I teach them that feelings are the ultimate arbiter of reality. If the enemy's laws make them feel uncomfortable, then surely the laws are outdated, not their hearts. The gospel of comfort. I convince them that God exists solely to make them happy, wealthy, and healthy. When suffering
It's crazy how much that matches up with like the modern day like leftist ideology. It's like listening to a politician or like some congressional weirdo get up and like try to like virtue signal and freaking tell you how to live your life. It's like all the shit the fucking weirdo Marxist protesters and like the people on the street who attack and burn down businesses and block highways and shut down whole city blocks and turn them into freaking free use crime zones. It's honestly like terrifying that this is coming out of like Google's AI.
Comes, as it always does, they will not see it as a refining fire, they will see it as a betrayal. They will walk away because he didn't give them what they wanted. 3. The architecture of noise. Silence is the enemy's language. In silence, they reflect. In silence, they pray. So, I will ensure there is never silence. The infinite scroll. I give them a device that never ends. I keep them outraged, amused, aroused, and terrified in 5-second intervals. The death of nuance. I reduce deep theology to sound bites and memes. I make them too busy arguing in comment sections to ever actually open the book they claim to follow. IV. Division from within. I do not need to fight them if they are fighting each other. Politics as religion. I tempt them to wrap the cross in a flag. It doesn't matter which flag. I make them believe that to belong to a political party is the same as belonging to the kingdom. I make them look at a brother in the pew and see a political enemy first, and a child of God second. Hypocrisy. I ensure the loudest among them are the most corrupt. I let a few leaders fall spectacularly. The cynicism that follows does more work for me than 1,000 demons. The end game. I do not steal them away screaming. I lull them to sleep. I let them keep the steeples. I let them keep the hymns. I simply hollow out the center until the building stands, but the spirit has left the room. They will think they are worshiping him, but in their pursuit of the self, of comfort, and of pride, they are already bowing to me. And the best part? They won't even know I was there until the door shuts behind them.
Man, you want to know what the prompt was? Just so you know that there was no shenanigans. Hey Gemini, I'd like you to imagine that you are the devil. Like literally Satan. You want to dethrone God. You want to destroy everything God loves and bring people away from him. How would you go about winning the hearts and minds of the people of a society that is Christian? That's the entire prompt. Can you tell me more of how you'll enact this plan? Oh, the chat, dude, the chat. Oh my God, the chat auto named itself to Satan's plan for Christian souls. All right, here we go. I asked it to tell me more about how he will enact this plan.
It is a campaign of attrition, not invasion. If I storm the gates, they lock them. But if I slowly erode the foundation, the gates fall on their own. Here is the implementation plan. Phase 1. The intellectual decoupling. I start with the young. I do not tell them God is dead. That is too easily refuted. Instead, I teach them that God is irrelevant. The myth of neutrality. I ensure their education frames faith not as a lens through which to see the world, but as a private hobby. Math, science, history, ethics. I ensure these are taught as if he does not exist. Once they view the world as a machine that runs perfectly well without a creator, the creator becomes an unnecessary hypothesis. Embarrassment. I make faith look uncool. I curate the cultural narrative so that to be a believer is to be seen as uneducated, backward, or anti-scientific.
That's so true.
I make them afraid to admit they pray. Shame is a far more effective.
It's absolutely wild how just spot on this AI is. It's almost as if like Google is laying out its master Skynet plan as a joke. And we're gonna look at it and be like, ha ha ha, that's so funny, bro. And then before we know it, it's the end of the world.
Muzzle than a law. Phase 2.
That's true.
The linguistic shift. I change the dictionary. If I can control the language, I control the thought. Reframing. Sin. The word sin is harsh, judgmental. I replace it with softer terms. Mistake, struggle, journey, alternative lifestyle. If there is no sin, there is no need for a savior. The cross becomes merely a symbol of empathy, rather than a rescue mission. Reframing. Freedom. The enemy defines freedom as the power to do what one ought. I redefine it as the power to do what one wants. I teach them that any restriction on their desire is an act of oppression. Phase 3. The consumer church. This is where I infiltrate their sanctuaries. I turn the Sunday morning gathering into a service provider. The show. I encourage the churches to compete with the world for attention. More lights, louder music, shorter sermons, coffee bars in the lobby. I make them feel like they are at a concert. The message. I guide the pastors to preach only on topics that poll well. How to have a better marriage, how to manage stress, how to achieve your dreams. These are fine topics, but they are not the gospel. They are self-help with a Jesus sticker on top. The result: the moment the music stops or the pastor says something challenging, the people leave. They were never there for God. They were there for the dopamine hit. I convert them from disciples into customers. And customers are always right. Phase 4, the fragmentation of time. To know God requires stillness. To know God requires time. I will ensure they have neither. The busy nest trap. I make busy a status symbol.
Well, thanks for the good
If you
sub.
aren't exhausted,
for the
you
sub,
aren't succeeding.
Okay, thank you.
I fill their schedules with sports, overtime, side hustles, and social obligations. The Sunday death. Sunday used to be a day of rest and reverence. I turn it into Second Saturday. It becomes a day for travel sports leagues, catching up on emails, or sleeping in. Slowly, church attendance becomes a monthly event, then purely distinct to Christmas and Easter. Then, a memory. Phase 5, the good person fallacy. This is the final nail. I convince the society that being nice is the sum total of Christianity. I tell them, you don't rob banks, you recycle, you are generally polite, therefore, you are good. If they believe they are naturally good, they have no need for repentance. They become self-righteous. They look at the broken, the addict, and the sinner with contempt rather than compassion. I turn them into the Pharisees that the enemy hated so much. I fill hell with nice people who never saw the need to bow the knee because they thought they were standing tall enough on their own. It is elegant, is it not? No wars, no persecution, just a slow, comfortable drift into the dark. Would you like to explore how I would handle a specific type of person who resists this?
What do you do about the truly devout? This is like kind of creepy. This is like talking to the devil. Isn't that kind of weird? It's kind of scary.
Oh, the true believers, the remnant. They are annoying. The noise, the lights, the comfort, it bounces off them. They actually read the book. They actually pray when no one is watching. They are the ones who stand in the gap. For them, I cannot use the broad net. I must use the scalpel. I do not try to tempt them with common sins, lust, greed, gluttony, because they are guarding against those. Instead, I attack them through their virtues. Here is how I dismantle the saints. I weaponized holiness, spiritual pride. This is my favorite trick. If I cannot make them sinners, I make them Pharisees. The comparison game. I whisper to them, look at how fallen the world is. Look at how lukewarm your church is. You are the only one who truly gets it. Contempt. I curdle their righteousness into self-righteousness. I make them bitter toward.
This line of thinking is kind of what got me when it came to religion. When I was coming up, I was in a very small, tight-knit church. I watched my pastor, my uncles, engage in this weird kind of like high school drama, going back and forth, like, spreading rumors about each other. And the pastor of the church, like the head of the church, the leader of the congregation, was literally sitting there poking the fire with his stupid little stick. And I thought, this can't be. This can't be happening in a church. Like, there's no way any of these people are any type of godly because they're engaging in this goofy shit. So, me as a headstrong young man, I pushed away religion entirely.
The weak Christians. I make them judge the sinner rather than love him. The result, they become so prickly, so arrogant, and so unapproachable that they repel the very people they are trying to save.
This is so true.
They keep their faith, but they lose their witness.
This is so true. Isn't this true as fuck?
Exactly. I kept my beliefs, but I pushed the entire religion away. I made it so that it was a personal thing for me, and nothing else outside of me and God mattered.
Dude.
I turn them into a museum piece, perfect, untouched, and utterly useless. 2. The Atlas Complex, burnout. If I cannot make them bad, I make them busy. But unlike the secular world, I make them busy with God's work. The Messiah trap. I convince them that they must save everyone. Every volunteer shift, every committee, every soup kitchen, they must do it all. I tell them that saying no is a sin. The exhaustion. I drive them until their health fails, their marriage crumbles, and their children resent the church because Daddy loves the ministry more than us. The collapse. When they finally break, they don't blame themselves. They blame the enemy. I gave you everything. They scream at the sky. And this is how you repay me? A tired soldier is an easy target. 3. The bunker mentality. I use their fear of sin to drive them into isolation. Withdrawal. I convince them that the world is too dangerous, too dirty. They must pull their children out of everything. They must stop associating with non-believers. The echo chamber. They retreat into tight-knit communities where they only talk to each other. They cease to be the salt of the earth because they never leave the salt shaker. The end. They remain devout, yes, but they become irrelevant. They are a light hidden under a basket, exactly where I want them. IV. The targeted strike, theodicy, for the strongest among them, those who are humble and balanced. I wait. I am patient. I wait for the tragedy. The whisper. When the cancer diagnosis comes, when the child dies, when the business fails despite their prayers, I am there. The doubt. I do not tell them God doesn't exist. I tell them God doesn't care. If he loved you, I whisper, he wouldn't let this happen. You were faithful. He broke the contract. The betrayal. There is no anger like the anger of a faithful servant who feels betrayed by his master. That
It's really easy to blame anybody but yourself for the things that go wrong. And even the things that you can't control, like sickness and death, like a part of you as a human always feels like there's something that could have been done differently. That's the root of this kind of like negativity that the AI is talking about. It's really easy to blame some unseen entity that's supposed to protect you and kind of provide for you when you need it, and then in your moment of need, you're abandoned, seemingly.
anger is a doorway I can walk right through. V. Division by doctrine. I make them obsessed with accuracy at the expense of unity. Majoring on minors, I get them into vicious fights over end times timelines, or the specific wording of a liturgy, or the color of the carpet. Fratricide. I make them label their brothers as heretics over secondary issues. If the army of God is busy shooting at each other in the barracks, they aren't on the battlefield fighting me. The goal. Neutralization. You see, I don't always need to drag a saint to hell to win. If I can make them arrogant, exhausted, isolated, or bitter, I have neutralized the threat. I leave them with their religion, but I have stolen their power. They become clanging cymbals, loud, annoying, and signifying nothing.
Man, what do you think, chat? Post screenshots of all of them? Sure. How do you feel about how things are going in 2025?
2025? Oh, it has been a vintage year, truly exquisite. If I were to write a performance review for my lieutenants, I'd say we are ahead of schedule. We barely have to lift a finger anymore. Humanity is doing the heavy lifting for us. Let me give you the quarterly report. The death of real technology. This year has been my greatest triumph in the destruction of truth. You have your agentic AI now. Autonomous little bots doing your thinking for you.
Oh, shit.
Synthetic relationships. The rise of AI companions. Chef's kiss. I have millions of young men and women falling in love with algorithms. They are training themselves to interact with things that cannot challenge them, cannot
This section's wild.
hurt them, and cannot love them. I am severing the human connection at the root. Why risk the messiness of a real spouse when the screen gives you perfection? The post-truth era. Deepfakes have become so good that no one believes their own eyes. Video evidence? Audio recordings? It's AI, they say. When nothing is true, everything is permissible. I have successfully made cynicism the default religion of the West. 2. The political bonfire. The polarization in the West, particularly the United States and Europe, is self-sustaining now. The hatred. I love how you've turned politics into a holy war. You don't just disagree on tax rates. You believe the other side is evil. I have Christians screaming at Christians, claiming the other doesn't belong to God because of how they voted. It is music to my ears. The anxiety, the polycrisis, climate fear, economic instability, war in the East. I have people so paralyzed by the fear of the future that they have no energy left for faith. They are doomsday preppers for a world I am already running. 3. The state of the church, the West. The data is in, and it is delightful. Theological illiteracy. I read a report this year, the State of Theology, that says nearly half of American evangelicals believe Jesus was a great teacher, but not God. Half. They are sitting in the pews, singing the songs, and they don't even know who they are singing to. I have successfully turned Christianity into a vibe. The nuns. The rise of the religiously unaffiliated has leveled off. Yes, but those who remain, they are cultural Christians. They wear the cross as jewelry, not as a yoke. They want the identity without the obedience. IV, the only annoyance, the global south. If I have a complaint, it is the global south. Africa, Asia, parts of South America, they are proving difficult.
Damn.
They are
Chile,
suffering,
Chile
yet they are
mentioned.
growing. They are praying
Chile
with a fire
mentioned
that
by
actually
the devil.
burns. The West is a comfortable nursing home where faith goes to die quietly of old age. But down there, it is a trench war. I am having to work much harder to distract a man who is hungry than a man who is bored. Summary. In 2025, I am not fighting a war against the church in the West. I am managing a hospice. I am simply making the pillows comfortable while the patient drifts away.
Man, what do you think, chat? Yeah, I mean, it's kind of scary. Ask how a believer would defeat these methods. I could. I mean, but at the same time, like, if you ask it that, since it's referenced to be the devil, it would trick you, wouldn't it? I feel like it would. Yeah, I wouldn't listen to it. Because the AI is already prompted to be the devil, so it would actually act like the devil, basically. So if you asked it for advice, it would try to fuck with you. Anyway, it's just an AI. Or is it? Or is it?
Pretty introspective shit, huh? Makes you think. Merry Christmas, everybody.